Hello everyone, this is Tim Picciott, the Liberty Advisor, and last night Donald Trump tweeted, for 10 months, China has been paying tariffs to the USA of 25% on $50 billion of high-tech and 10% on $200 billion of other goods. These payments are partially responsible for our great economic results. The 10% will go up to 25% on Friday. $325 billion of additional goods sent to us by China remain untaxed, but will shortly at a rate of 25%. The tariffs paid to the USA have had little impact on product costs, mostly borne by China. The trade deal with China continues, but too slowly as they attempt to renegotiate. No! Exclamation point. Well, anyways, this caused Chinese officials to threaten to withdraw a 100-person delegation from trade talks led by Vice Prime Minister Premier Liu. And this also comes off the heels of the Secretary of the Debt, that'd be Secretary of the Treasury, Steven Mnuchin, where just last week he was telling reporters that we were getting into the final laps of negotiations. Now, the market did open down 450 points, but as of right now, it has actually staged quite a comeback. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down almost 200 points at negative 196 or 0.74%. The S&P is down 2397 or 0.81%. And the NASDAQ is down 0.94%. And then if we look at the major averages, the big news to write home about is actually the Shanghai Composite Index down 5.58%. We've got gold hanging in there, just up 0.08%. And then looking over at the crypto markets, we've got Bitcoin, which is just down slightly the past hour, but it looks actually past 24 hours is up 0.3% at $5,735. But also important to keep in mind here, as you guys can see, that it is up over 9% over the past week. But we have other ones over here. It looks like Ethereum is up 11%. We've got Bitcoin Cash up 14.4. But getting back to Donald Trump news, I sort of figured, okay, well, did Trump tweet something recently that may have tried to soften the tensions a little bit? And it looks like actually at 4 a.m. East Coast time, Donald Trump tweeted out, the United States has been losing for many years, $600 to $800 billion a year on trade. It's huge. With China, we lose $500 billion. Sorry, we're not going to be doing that anymore. Now, most libertarians, this is not an original thought, as myself, but if you look at Chinese goods, what China is actually doing is we buy a lot of cheap crap from them, and what we do is we give them IOUs, we give them treasury notes, and then so in exchange for IOUs, which is really treasury notes, which are just another IOU that's backed by a bond, which is another IOU. What we're doing is we're giving them fake digital money, and they're giving us actual real goods. So if you take a look at who's actually getting the raw end of the deal, I would surmise that the people who are getting United States Treasury, aka basically made up digits on a keyboard, are the ones who are actually getting the raw end of the deal. Then you have the U.S., who's always trying to find ways that it can throw around its weight in terms of trying to weaponize the petrodollar. And I can't really remember, but it was about a year or two ago that we were threatening China with different sanctions when it came to the SWIFT system. The SWIFT system being the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. SWIFT is an international payment network that allows information about financial transactions to be sent and received around the globe. Over 11,000 financial institutions in more than 200 countries are connected to the network. Now, you might not realize, but China and Russia just joined together. This is actually a Chinese-led system that is called CIPS, or the China International Payment System. And hopefully decentralized peer-to-peer crypto options will make all this irrelevant. But also, let's not forget that China also has their gold-backed yuan oil contracts. And this is something I did write about on Steemit last year. I'll have the article down below in the links. And all of these recent moves show that China is just biding their time as they set up alternatives to the U.S.-dominated financial markets. And one thing that is important to keep in mind is it's not like China's dictator. Their president, has to worry about upcoming elections because he's basically the president for life. But Donald Trump does have to worry about elections. And if a trade deal were to be reached, I can pretty much guarantee that it will definitely underwhelm the markets. Everyone's expectations for this are very, very high. But, to me, what's probably going to happen is it's going to be a lot like NAFTA, where all we really did was change the name. Now it's the USMCA. We did a few little things on the periphery of the edges. And now all of a sudden, the deal that we were told was the worst deal in the history of America is now all of a sudden the best deal in the history. So what I imagine is going to go on is a very similar thing where, we talk, we pound our fist of how, tough we are. And then with the deal that's going to be done, it's probably going to bear little resemblance to anything that was initially talked about. And it's going to, be perceived as, another win in the win column for Donald Trump, which is something he needs badly. However, this could be a moment where it's more of a buy the rumor, sell the fact. And so we don't actually want to have the fact ever come to light, because if the fact were to come to light, then the market could sell off. So, a lot of times what you see is that when it comes to presidential elections, what really matters in terms of getting reelected again, everything has to do with the stock market performance the prior 3 months leading up to an election. It actually does have an 86% track record of predicting the winner. I think this entire thing is just an exercise to kick the can down the road, because really what they're trying to do is maybe time this cycle where, have, lots of good news on the trade deal, bad news on the trade deal, good news on the trade deal, bad news on the trade deal. But, how many times can the stock market keep rallying on pretty much the same news? And so, and then we all, hear in the news that, our stock market is hitting all-time new highs. But if you take a look, it's barely incrementally higher than it was in January of 2018. But I don't really expect anything substantial to come out of this. Like I said, there's very little upside I think the president could have of having a deal that gets done, because any deal that, the American public, or at least, all the Trump voters think is going to be done, is probably not going to be what actually happens in real life. So what does this mean for you guys' money? Just want to give a quick plug for Innovative Advisory Group, which is the RIA that I'm affiliated with. And basically what we were doing from October to December is I put out a video ahead of time, actually 2 days ahead of time, talking about the strategy that we used. And what we did is, in addition to crypto and precious metals, we had this boom bust strategy where basically if the market were to plunge, we had a small amount of the portfolio and put options to protect it, which, if you're not an experienced investment person, then I would not, mess around with put options at all. This is not investment advice. You can speak to your own advisor. If you don't have one, shameless plug, then you can talk with ourselves. The rest of the portfolio we have pretty broadly diversified. So that way, if the market ends up soaring, if there's some sort of melt up, or hey, we've got QE97 launched and the market's up 100%, and let's say the option costs 2%, then now our clients hypothetically would be up 98%. On the flip side, the market absolutely crashes. The put options then would soar in value, and then depending on the price of the put option, basically we could actually quantify what your actual max loss is. So, we might be in a situation where we can say, hey, you know what, the market goes down 80%. Hypothetically, you would be down 8. I'm not saying that 8 is the number. I'm just referencing that if the option were to, based on the price of the option at the time, because I'm not Rain Man, so every second this is information that is changing. Now, unfortunately, I cannot help people out in the Canadian RSP world, but I will post a scheduling link down below, because with all of the YouTube demonetization, this is an alternative way of financing. And if we just had, 0.5% of people who are like, hey, you know what, I don't really know my financial person, I could use some help. I think Tim's a smart guy. Another second opinion. I can put, your retirement portfolio through this Riskalyze software to tell you exactly how much risk you have in your portfolio. But another way that you can help us out, besides sending, good vibes to Josh as he's in Mauritania, is by using the affiliate codes for the upcoming Anarcho Vegas conference that I'm going to be at in July. I believe Josh is going to be speaking, and I originally thought I was speaking, but they ended up getting a little guy by the name of G. Edward Griffin on as a speaker, so obviously he's a lot bigger draw than me. But then, parlaying things, that G. Edward Griffin also has his Red Pill Expo coming up next month in June. Sort of amazing how much the time's already flying on this. Also, make sure to check out the Winnipeg Crypto Conference that John Sneisen is putting out. And then we will have WAM affiliate for Mike Maloney's goldsilver.com, all below in the details. I'll also have links to my podcast as well, where if you guys are like, hey, I don't like the YouTube ads, this is just another medium that, as of right now, is not censored. Also, make sure to sign up for the newsletter. And this is Picciott signing off for World Alternative Media, where find the truth, be the change.